Welcome to National Government Services Interpretation of Medicare Provider Enrollment for eligible ordering and recertifying physicians and other eligible professionals with the CMS 855O paper application. In order to go ahead and download this, you can go on to our website, www.NGSMedicare.com, select the Part B on the left side, drop down, and a jurisdiction and business area. Then, of course, go to Resources, Forms, Enrollment, and download the CMS 855O paper application. So here we have the paper application, and we're going to go through this to assist you with how to fill out these sections. So we have you understanding how to go ahead and download it. The first page is going to just tell you that this is the 855O. The second page is going to go through some instructions. And of course, it would be much easier just to go onto the internet-based PAYCO system, and you can use the easy form to populate the same information and submit automatically. But in case you want to use this paper, we have it available for you. Do understand there's only certain types of individuals that might want to fill this out. So we have some suggestions on you might be working at a VA, you might be working in an Indian health facility, you might be working somewhere that you will not be billing for services directly, and you're not having someone bill on your behalf. So these are just some suggestions. At the bottom, it gives you some information about a billing number, which you will not be getting because you'll be ordering and referring only. As you go on to the next page of instructions, it does give you some information about how to complete this, and of course, some tips along the way, some acronyms, and at the bottom, where to mail it. So depending on what state you're in, you want to mail it to the MAC that is associated with the Part B for that state. Now let's get into the brunt of the application. The reason for the submission of the application. Now it could be that you already have one of these ordering and referring 855Os that you submitted because you lived in Maine, and now you might have moved to Hawaii. So you might want to update. So you actually have to submit this as a change of information application. And then, of course, inform the information is elsewhere. You will be submitting it to the MAC that you originally submitted it to so that they can go ahead and appropriately have this updated and transferred to another MAC if need be. So you follow the instructions whether you're doing a change of information or maybe you're withdrawing it because you don't want it anymore, you retired, or the first one you're enrolling for the first time, you're going to be completing all the sections. When you go to section 1B, reason for enrolling solely to order and refer, make sure you only identify one reason from group 1 or one reason from group 2. So check the appropriate one. If you are a licensed resident not employed by any entity from Group 1, you might need to go ahead and just have everything identified for your license as an attachment for this application. The other one that a lot of people go ahead and question, and I'm going to refer you to the MLN Matters article SE 18008 for provider enrollment for unlicensed residents. So I kind of jump to conclusions here. You're going to put here for other unlicensed residents, and you have to make sure that you have the appropriate paperwork that is attached with this application. You either need a residency contract signed and dated by both the official of the institute and yourself, or you need a letter on institutional letterhead confirming the applicant's status as a resident physician, signed and dated by an official of the institute and containing at a minimum the name of the applicant. So those are the two, and you'll be able to find that on that MLN Matters article SE 18008. You'll indicate here unlicensed resident. It's not necessary because usually unlicensed residents do have are under the control of their teaching facility instructor. Next, we go on to type section 2, identify information. And this information is all about the individual that's going to order and refer. So you populate everything that they ask there, answer all the questions, make sure you identify the license number. And of course, if you had one, you can go ahead and use a Medicare identification if you're switching over to just ordering and referring. But your Social Security birth date is very important. Then we'll move down to the education information on where you are having your medical and or professional training and the year you graduated. The next page starts into the license information, and here's where you might have to get a little bit more detail-oriented. Sometimes it's best to go ahead and put a copy of your license with the submission of this application. You might have a certification if you're a non-physician practitioner, and that certification will be needed too. So they do ask for that certification specialty board. So it'll be your license and your specialty board. And the third thing is again, it's could be not applicable. That's up to you. The DEA, if you identify the DEA, please make sure you have a copy of the DEA for verification because that's the only way we can verify. Moving on to the next page is the final verse legal action history. If you've had any final verse legal action history opposed upon you, please make sure you have the documentation and or resolution with the submission of the application. And obviously at the bottom, you'll indicate yes. And of course, that final verse action with the date taken. Otherwise, you can just mark no, make it nice and easy. Okay, the next page moving on is for the physicians and the non-physicians, depending on what type of individual specialty, eligible specialty you have. So they indicate all of the eligible specialties here, as well as the non-physician professional below. So you can move on to the next area. The correspondence mailing address. The correspondence mailing address is where we can reach you. So if you are working at somewhere in Maine, New York, wherever it might be, you can indicate that here. And then, of course, it says optional, but this is who we reach out to when we communicate that your ordering or referring application is complete. So it's in your best interest that it's you. And if you are moving or have moved, you might want to make sure you update this also besides moving your correspondence address and your license to update it to the other state that you are in. Below that is Section 7 for the penalties for falsifying information to have this go through the Medicare program. Please make sure you read all these certifications that you're abiding by. And it does say if you move or have updates, please go ahead and submit that. The last page here is for your certification verifying that you will abide by Medicare rules and regulations. Please make sure that you print your name, sign your name, and date it. Obviously, the last page is for the application privacy statement. Here's just some information that a lot of people are not aware of, but it's for privacy that you will obviously still abide by Medicare rules and regulations, and that this will be appropriate for what you are doing and rendering services. You will mail this with any supporting documentation, such as non-physician practitioners. They will have to have their national board certification. We do suggest a copy of your license, and if you indicate your DEA, please make sure you have your DEA. If you're a non-licensed resident, you'll need that documentation as well as anything else that we mentioned earlier. So hopefully this helps assist you with filling out the paper 855O, and you'll mail this to the appropriate MAC that you're in that state, representing for the MAC represents that state. And thank you for attending.